Hey everybody, and welcome back to a brand new video. Now this is going to be devlog number 2, but if you've missed the first one, that is okay. So today I'm going to talk to you about something cool, something really awesome that I learned in the last couple of weeks, and that is something called the power of block level. Okay, now this is going to sound super obvious, but nonetheless, this is the first time that I maybe kind of tried to do something like this, and I think I'm really happy with the results. So I want to talk to you about what that is and how it can maybe help you in your projects. And I'm also going to tell you about what the pros are and what kind of things it can actually help and help solve. So for example, if you saw the last video, then you'll automatically notice that in between the last video and in the first video, in the last video, this room was essentially pretty much open. But right now, when I pan across this room, you see a lot of crap in it, right? And if you notice, all of this stuff here is essentially made by primitives, okay? This has been made in Unreal. Everything is super placeholder, but everything has been made in Unreal within a couple of hours, okay? And yet, by looking at most things here, you can automatically already tell what they are. So, it goes without saying, it might seem like super obvious advice, but creating a block level like this can really help you get an idea of spacing. It can really help tell you what is going to go where, what the size of it is, what the scale of it is, what it's going to feel like, and what your game will feel like before you start churning out all those assets, okay? So just by looking at this, you can tell that these are some sort of monitors, right? You might be able to tell that these are some sort of wall plug-in, devices. You can tell that this is a painting on a wall. You can tell this is some sort of a stool with some stuff on it, right? Other things you might not be able to tell, but it's for the developers, right? The general public should never see it. So for example, this is going to be a stack of magazines, right? You might be able to tell this is going to be a note on a folder. So things like that. I never realized how powerful the block level was, but if I hit play for a second, let's see. So when I hit play, right, you can immediately kind of walk around and you can start thinking about, as a developer, what you want the player to do. So the game is going to start like so. The player is going to be looking out at the window, and you can start thinking, well, what is he going to be seeing? What is he going to be reacting on? This is going to be a monitor screen with your heartbeat monitor and things like that, health stuff. The kind of typical screens that you see in a hospital wing, in a hospital room, I should say. And you can start getting the feel of what the game would look like, right? You can start thinking, well, okay, what are things that need to be seen, right? The player will walk over here, do this, do that, so on and so forth. The block level has a lot of benefits, okay? It can, the first one being it can help you get an idea of scale and movement. So you can see, well, can I move here? Can I not move here? Number two, it helped us, and it's helping us currently dictate what the prompt list for the artist can be. So me being a programmer, right, one of the things that I've always complained about is, oh, I can't make art. Well, first of all, you realize that by making, with these simple primitives, you can still go a long way in telling a person, selling your idea to a person, okay? So this looks believable, right? This bathroom, I mean, if I put a couple of more materials in there, I mean, this looks like a bathroom, right? I mean, you can see what we're trying to do. You could probably already tell that this is a weighing scale, without me having to tell you. You can tell these cubes are not cubes, they are towels, right? These are toilet rolls. So you can do a lot, and I think that's one of the great takeaways that I've learned so far working on this project, because now I don't have that excuse, okay, anymore. Like, I can't say, oh, I'm a programmer, so I should absolutely never ever have to think about placing things or so on and so forth, because that's the artist's job, right? So I do enjoy putting on the level design hat, and so as a programmer, you have no excuse now. So the block level can tell you a lot of things about what need to be done in your game. It can also tell you certain problems, which I'll talk about very soon. I also want to say that after doing this block level, we have decided to make a lot of changes, okay? And that is what I mean. That is how powerful the block level is. But going forward with the block level, this was a very empty nurse's station. But again, you can suddenly see a lot of crap there. And this is not just crap pushed randomly, okay? So let me tell you about how you decide what to put in there and how we decided what needs to go where. getting out of the game, right? The first thing that we did for this block level was to get the walls in, just get the entire geometry in, right? We had a specific thought process in mind where we wanted the player to wake up here, right? Then we knew that the end of the level was all the way over here, and then we wanted some backtracking and so on and so forth. But once we had a general idea of what the start and the ending point was, we started laying out the level. We still haven't finalized on the level, and this level will change. And especially as a result of this block level, we realized that this level needs to change. But that's what the cool thing is. It's you know, you work it, you tweak it, you twerk it, and then you move forward and you try something different. So the way we did it was, the first thing was, well, you put the walls in, right? And you might call that you know, the zero pass, where you put the walls in there. But then we did a couple of different passes in eventually getting to this particular block level. So for example, the first pass was to put in the absolute bare minimums, right? Like for example, the bed, this screen, so on and so forth, some of the very small primitives. And when you go and look in the first video, you'll realize what kind of super primitives that I'm talking about. But once we did that, we got an idea of, well, okay, sure, we can get some idea of space, but we still didn't know what other stuff, what other props would go in the environment. So then there was a second pass done where we added all of this stuff, right? All of these screens, all of this, right? All of, you know, this little tray table here. We added all of this stuff in the bathroom. Initially, the bathroom was completely empty. All it had was this little cabinet here and the sink and the toilet and things like that. But then we actually did the second pass, and the second pass was a prop pass, okay? Now, these are not things, you know, that you want to like write down, but these are things you want to kind of think about, and I'm telling you because that's the way we thought about it. So after that first general pass where we added the walls and the general stuff, we did a second pass, and that second pass was to add general generic stuff so places look like what they were supposed to. So granted, these are block levels, we are imagining them as actually assets that have been built by the artist, and once that is done, then this place would look pretty much, you know, once replaced by all the proper assets, this place would start looking like a hospital room, right? So same thing for the lounge here, right? There was the prop pass, and in that prop pass we did, you know, the printer, the telephone, the so on and so forth, without thinking about, you know, necessarily what the story was. Like these, a lot of things. You see the second pass where you do the prop pass, and the third pass, which I'll talk about, which is going to be the story pass, are often interlinked, okay? So it's a fine line, and sometimes they overlap, and that's okay. But the prop pass essentially was just generally putting stuff in, right? So in the prop pass, we knew that we wanted to add a vending machine here, a food dispensing thing here. We weren't necessarily thinking about the story at this point and how to convey the story. We wanted to do a whole different pass for the story pass. So same thing for this little coffee dispenser machine, some tray tables, and so on and so forth. Just some sort of chaos, and some of this was the prop pass. And that's kind of what we were doing, right? And then once we were pretty happy, right, with the prop pass, we decided to do the story pass. Now I've been treating these two passes as two different ones because that's how we approached it. They are very close to being, there's oftentimes that there's going to be overlap. So let me tell you what I mean by that. Like in the case of the room, once we were done with the second pass, our third pass, our story pass was going to be about going in there and placing all the little tidbits which make this game a walking simulator, right? So we already had this, but this prop actually, when you wake up and you see this is going to be a real major story pass. It's going to be a story pass because when you look at this little thing, this is going to be one of those, I'm not quite sure what they're called, but I want to say, hold on, real quick. They're one of these, hold on. They're called EKG monitors, right? So this is going to be sort of something that you're going to be seeing here when you wake up, and it's going to be showing you all your vitals and so on and so forth. And this is even though this went in the early stages, this is part of this is a story prop, right? Another story prop is this one right here. So the text on it, we have a separate text document, right? We've got a Trello document where we're writing down everything per se as to what actually goes on this, what this actually says, right? This calendar here is a story pass, so there's going to be dates on it. Some of them will be checked off, and then there will be rest of them will not be checked off, implying that no one has checked on you in a little while. And the date, the last check-in date on the calendar, will be the same as the date of this particular file report that someone has left open, right? There's going to be a note here saying something. In this case, it said, "I'm so sorry." And this is going to be something where you look at it, you explore it, you're thinking, wait, what does that even mean? But this was part of the story pass, right? Same thing for this little remote controller. So I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but this is actually a nurse's calling button. So your player would be able to go there, press E to interact, pick it up, press it, click it, and no one comes, right? So all of these were part of the story passes. And then another high-level pass was the what do you call it? The environment pass. So things like, what kind of feel do we want? So it's the last couple of passes, when you're doing this sort of block level, can be merged into one, but they also overlap a lot. So what kind of, the decisions for what picture this would be, right, is the final pass. So on top of the story pass, what we're trying to do with these images ideally would be to tell a story, not about the story, but tell you a little bit about what this place might be, and so on and so forth, and just to make it a believable, livable environment. So that's the whole point of the block level, and that's the whole point of making a believable environment, right? If we go here, we see certain things. This computer here is going to be an interactable, and you would be able to, when you press E, the camera is going to zoom in all the way into the screen, and within the screen you'll be able to read some of the journal entries of the nurses and stuff that were here, that had worked here, right? There's going to be notes. This is going to be a notice board, and what notes are going to go there is part of the story pass, right? So you notice how we broke it into different passes, where the first pass was sort of like just putting the walls in and some general props in. The second pass, we were adding more props in to make the places look believable. So all of this stuff here and this stuff here was part of our second pass. And then on top of that, we did the story pass, right? So we went and decided, oh, there needs to be this note here, what this note needs to say. There needs to be this poster here, what this poster needs to be about. There needs to be this thing, right? So over here, this is part of the story pass. Granted, we didn't do such a great job, but this is supposed to imply that there were people here that were maybe kind of crowded around this table, and this little plane here is actually going to be a map. So this is going to be a map, and the idea is that there are people who have been crouched upon, and they've been pondering about this situation, and it's the map of the entire space station, and certain notes will have been made on the maps, which you will be able to look at and be like, aha, so this is what's going on, or this is what had happened here, right? You see some sleeping beds, so on and so forth, people's things near their things, near their sleeping beds, and so on and so forth, and all of that was part of the the story pass. You probably also noticed these awesome looking cool block arcades, and the idea was that this is going to be a recreational room, but there were people who were stuck here because of a particular situation that happened, and because of that, it seems a bit, this was a recreational room, a relaxing room, but then it just so happened to be a temporary abode for people on this space station and such. So one cool little tidbit that we talked about was, and I'm not sure if we'll ever even get there, but the idea was, hey, what if you could go there, interact with it, and actually play a game, right? So in my mind, there is nothing more immersive than a game within a game. So even if you could play some sort of 8-bit Pong style NES, sort of a Sega or Atari type game in here, I think that would be super awesome. I don't think that's gonna happen though, but cool little things like that, and you can get an idea essentially of what needs to happen and in what ways, and so on and so forth. So guys, the whole point of this video has been to talk about this little approach. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you guys think I'm missing something in terms of this approach though. And what I want to tell you is, you're probably wondering, well, what happened? What was the final outcome, right? So because of this block level, a lot of things became easier and more clear. For example, you can already tell that we know for the most part what kind of props need to go in, so it's like, hey, let's create a prop list, let's decide what the priority of those props are, and let's start punching them out. We also notice, however, certain things, like for example, in this room here, it's maybe too big, right? One of the things was, well, this is supposed to, even though these are primitives, even though these will be eventually modeled by the artist, we realized that, hey, you know what? This room is probably looking like a theater room, with this massive, big ass bathroom and so on and so forth. It started looking like, let's see, a theater room, right? Not so much as a hospital wing. So maybe this needs to be smaller. Maybe there needs to be more beds. Maybe this TV needs to go, right? So some of these changes are in the works, right? It needs to look more hospital-y. There needs to be more wires. There needs to be more bottles. There needs to be more cables, so on and so forth, right? The bathrooms need to change. They need to change. You cannot have that big bathrooms, because we had a whole different room here, which I didn't go in because at the moment it's empty. But every room cannot have such massive bathrooms, right? So maybe there needs to be a big bathroom with stalls in it, and so on and so forth, right? Maybe these locker rooms, they don't need to be in a whole different room. So because of the block level, once you've got the block level, you can show it to people, and you can kind of start getting feedback from people and be like, well, hey, what do you think about this? And when we did that, we got some feedback, and the idea was, dude, some of this stuff is okay, and other bits, and they need to be worked on. So as a result of the block and level, you can get a lot of your questions answered about the feel of your game and so on and so forth. So that's one of the coolest things. I mean, you can get an idea of what props that you need to make, and you can get an idea of what needs to change. And sometimes you're not so happy about making those changes, but that's part of game development. So that's kind of what I wanted to share with you guys. Might seem overly obvious, but honestly, before today, I never actually went into so much detail with creating a block level for a game. And having done so now, I feel like this is something I'm going to be doing over and over again, and this is something amazing that I've just learned. I mean, when I started blocking, these things out and creating some stuff with simple rudimentary cubes, I realized, wow, I have no excuse for saying that I'm just a programmer anymore. I need to be able to still have some idea of what my game looks like, and I can do that with simple primitives. So that has been the lesson today, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys soon.